Joining us and just launching her campaign is Tanya Miller, the current chair of the House Democratic Caucus under the Gold Dome. You've been a trial lawyer, attorney, civil rights attorney, and now you want to be part of a position that is going to determine the right and wrong of a lot of folks in the state, and that is the state Attorney General. Can you talk to me about your launch of the campaign and why exactly you decided this was the right time for you to step foot in that door?
Thank you, first of all, for having me. I'll tell you that in my capacity as chair of the Democratic Caucus in the House, we of course interact with so many Georgians from across the state. We sort of get a close-up view of the struggles that Georgians are having, whether it's in urban communities or rural communities. And as we look around, there are so many opportunities, I believe, for an Attorney General to really help make the lives of people better. If you look at some of the affirmative actions that are being taken by Attorney Generals across the country, whether it be going after online predators, human traffickers, scammers, identity thieves, Attorneys General have tremendous power to use that office and to use lawsuits and going to court to vindicate and defend and fight for the people. So right now in this moment, I just feel like the people need a fighter. I have represented the people for most of my career, whether it's as a prosecutor in Fulton County or as a civil rights attorney. It has always been, the pleasure of my life's work to stand up for the people, and this just seems like the ultimate opportunity to do that.
And I mean, that's a big part of your campaign, is fighting for protecting the people. If you win this seat, your predecessor would be Chris Carr, who of course is running for another office. But what do you think you can bring to the office and the role of the people? Part of your campaign, and correct me if I'm wrong, you argue that some of the leaders that have held this role in the past have had private interest in mind, or those with big pockets. Is that correct?
Well, I'll tell you this. I know that when I become the next Attorney General, every single day that I come to work, my focus will be on the people. I think the evidence is clear that, the office has, for probably the last 20 years, not prioritized sticking up for working families. The office has engaged in a whole lot of politics. There's been a lot of focus on what's coming out of Washington, D.C., good or bad, but politics is fleeting, and the rule of law remains. And an Attorney General's focus, if you're the Attorney General of Georgia, your focus should be on Georgians, on fighting for Georgians, not on what's happening in Washington, D.C., not on politics, but on the people. And so I look forward to having the opportunity to usher in, I guess, that new day.
Can you give me just something that you saw from Chris Carr that you looked at and you said, I don't like how he's doing that. That is too political, as you say. Can you give us an example of that?
I won't comment on Attorney General Carr specifically. I will say this: I believe that the office can do so much more in terms of fighting for the people. We know that Georgia ranks way too high for online predators targeting children online. We know that Georgia ranks way too high for corporations who use AI, artificial intelligence, to collude together and to conspire to raise rents. I think Atlanta might be #1 for artificially high rent prices. We know that people are struggling. We know that seniors are being scammed out of their homes. And so my objective, my role, I believe, as the Attorney General will be to put that stuff in the forefront. So it is my goal to look forward, to talk about what that office can do, focus less on what it could have done, and make people know and understand. They may not know what the Attorney General does, but under my administration, they will know that the Attorney General is in that office every day fighting for them.
Can I ask you a question? Because I know that you said that you're not going to be focused on what's happening in Washington. You're going to be focused on the people of Georgia. But the reality is what happens in Washington oftentimes has an effect on the people of Georgia. I want to there are so many different topics that we could explore here, but I want to take immigration, for example. If there is, and there has been directives from Washington through the U.S., including the state of Georgia, state directives from the governor. As Attorney General, if it's something that you don't agree with regarding immigration policy, how do you plan to go about that if that's state law?
Well, I think it's hard to really speculate about what you might do in the future, but I'll say this. I believe our borders need to be secured. I believe that violent criminals need to be deported. And I believe that Washington, D.C. needs to come up because immigration that's the realm based on our Constitution of the federal government. So our leaders in Washington, D.C. need to come up with solutions that actually are smart on immigration, which means that we want to remove the folks who are committing crimes, but we want to figure out a way to keep an entire group of law-abiding, hard-working, tax-paying folks in this country who've done it the right way, who want to do it the right way. So I think the policy ought to be smart from Washington, D.C., and I will support smart policies.
But as Attorney General, if it is state law, and of course we cannot speculate what the future governor will which laws, and not just the governor, but as well as legislators, which laws will take effect when it comes to immigration. But if there is a state law, are you committed to enforce that?
Well, my
even if you don't agree with
job as the Attorney General is to enforce the law. I was a prosecutor for more than 10 years. My job isn't to make the law. My job is to enforce the law. Now, one of the things also I think that is the purview of an attorney general or a district attorney is discretion, is using interpretation, is understanding whether or not a law is constitutional or not constitutional. So all of those things require an examination that has to be specific. You can't really generalize about, what may or may not come in the future, but absolutely, as the attorney general, my job is to follow and enforce the law.
Let me ask you about this because you are coming into a role that has not been held by Democrats in some time.
In a long time.
In a very, very long time. And I'm sure that was a part of the thought process before you decided to get your hat and throw your hat in the ring here. You're also a woman and you're also a black woman here in Georgia, a typically conservative state. Can you talk to me about your strategy for trying to speak to those who might look at you and say, you're a Democrat, you're a woman, I don't know if I want you as Attorney General. Yeah,
look, I'll say this. I'm going to run on my record. And, I will look around the field in this race. May not be developed. There may be other candidates who get in this race. But I haven't seen a person yet who has the record of fighting violent criminals that I have. I haven't seen the person who has the record being on the front lines of our criminal justice system. And I would ask that the people judge me for my work. I can't help that I'm a woman, and certainly, that's something that, I can't change. But I think that people are a lot more open-minded than we give them credit for. And
do you think that the electorate is ready for a woman as Attorney General?
I certainly believe that the electorate is ready for a woman as an Attorney General. The people I'm talking to in the community are happy to hear fresh ideas, someone who has energy, someone who's going to fight for them. That is what is exciting people, and I don't think it has anything to do with my race or my gender. I think it has a lot to do with my personality, my tenacity, because that is who I am. I am a fighter, and I will do that for the people. And it's my hope that if I get the opportunity to talk to these people, they get a chance to know me, they'll see me for who I am.
How do you plan to commit to that promise of making sure that you are an Attorney General for the people? Of course, when you get into a high role like this, there's a lot of outside interest, a lot of money that could be coming, offering to come to your campaign with corporate interests. So how do you plan to not give in to the corporate interest and keep your focus on the people?
That's actually an easy question, Faith. I grew up in a working class family with a mother who worked hard every single day to take care of us. And even though she worked hard, she struggled just to make sure that our basic needs were met. And I think when you come up in a lot of ways without much, I won't say with nothing because we had a whole lot of love in our house, but money is not a motivator for me. And I think that is obvious from my life's work of public service. I am and will be unbought and unbossed by anyone. There is no amount of money that will tempt me from being faithful to the people never has been, and there never will be.
Thank you. When it comes to Georgia's heartbeat law, there have been some confusion among doctors, patients. Of course, on the other side of the aisle, there have been people who are extremely happy that this is ingrained in Georgia law right now. But when it comes to that gray area, there have been questions. I want to bring up the case of Adriana Smith, which I'm sure you're familiar of, the woman who was brain dead and eventually was able to deliver, doctors were able to deliver her child. When we reached out to the current Attorney General, he said that there is nothing in Georgia's heartbeat law that would prevent a hospital from taking a brain dead patient basically off of life support. But still, there was a question on if doctors could do that. If you were in that seat, if you had this role, what would your take be on this case?
Well, certainly this, I've had the pleasure to meet with Ms. Smith's mother and some members of her family. It is an awful, awful tragedy. It was very painful, extraordinarily painful for that family, and my heart goes out to them for all they've had to endure in this situation. And look, you know, I think that this bill, part of the debate that was going on, a vigorous debate when this bill was passed, was about the lack of clarity that I think we leave doctors and hospitals in when we start to legislate medical care. Yeah, I'm a legislator now. I don't personally believe that legislators should be telling doctors how to treat their patients. I think those decisions should be left to doctors and patients. Now, we have a bill on the books, a law on the books, and that is the law in the state of Georgia. I think responsible politicians need to make sure that they provide clarity to doctors and hospitals in these situations. There is no excuse for a hospital or a doctor to believe that they had to do something as awful and tragic as this under the law, when the highest office, the highest law enforcement office in this state, the Attorney General's office, didn't believe it to be so. That is evidence that that law is too vague and too confusing, and needs to be, you know, obviously addressed. And that's probably a legislative issue, but certainly the Attorney General has the ability to write legal opinions and to let folks know what his opinion is on the enforceability of certain laws.
Would you write a legal opinion?
And certainly, if a legal issue was presented to me, like this or on any other topic, you know, it would be my responsibility, my duty to provide clarity to the people of Georgia as the Attorney General. Absolutely.
Would you, given the current law, and even though there is no clarity right now on it, you said you would provide legal opinion. If it came down to it, would you bring charges against those doctors?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things, and this is always an interesting question, because prosecutors and elected DAs get this question all the time. You know, it is difficult for a person who is running for an office to prejudge whether they would charge or would not charge. It is just not something that a person can do, and I'll tell you why. Prosecutors every day have to use their discretion. They have to make decisions about priorities and about their resources. And I will tell you right now, there are a lot of entities out there, forces, people, corporations that are leaving Georgians not safe, that are leaving children not safe. And so if you ask me whether or not I will prioritize prosecuting doctors versus prosecuting what might be a higher priority in my office, you know, we'll get to that, of course, when those days come. But I don't think we have seen doctors be prosecuted under this bill because you know, it is really not, as far as most law enforcement officials are concerned, I would imagine, a priority when you have violent crimes, gangs running amok, shootings happening in schools and in our communities. I think law enforcement has to focus their priorities on probably more pressing matters.
Thank you for that. If we do have time, and I just want to get onto the topic because you mentioned it, of guns. clearly anytime that there is a tragedy in our community, whether that be a mass tragedy or the unfortunate daily shootings that we report on 11 Alive every single day. As Attorney General, you would obviously not be a legislator at that point, not writing the law. But when it comes to enforcement or using your influence to try to right the wrong that is happening here, and people have different opinions about what exactly is wrong, what exactly is the cause, what exactly is the reason. But how would you tackle the issue of gun violence if you had this role?
Well, first I want to just say kudos to my colleagues in the House of Representatives. There was a bipartisan school safety bill that passed. I think that is a good step in the right direction in keeping our kids safe from all kinds of threats, including gun violence in our schools. I supported that bill. I think one of the things we have to really hone in on and make real clear to Georgians across this great state is that they have an absolute right under the Second Amendment to bear arms. But what we see in our communities are guns in the hands of the wrong folks. We see guns in the hands of convicted felons. We see guns being stolen out of vehicles. We see guns, there are just too many flooding our community. And so there are a lot of innovative ideas out there to address that. Most of them probably legislative, but certainly as the Attorney General, I think encouraging communities, encouraging safe street community outreach, community programs that we've seen in Atlanta and other places to try to collect guns, to try to combat stolen guns getting into the street. And, you know, in addition to that, we have this problem of ghost guns. It is a growing problem in the state of Georgia. Ghost guns are sort of these gun kits that people can order and create their own guns. They are unregistered, untraceable guns. It is a problem for the ATF. It is a problem for law enforcement in Georgia. And I think as a priority, the Attorney General's office could have a more robust approach to trying to stop these illegal, untraceable guns from flooding our streets. So there are lots of things I think we can do in a constructive way to combat gun violence.
Thank you for that. My last question for you, because we do have to wrap up here. We are running out of time. I just want to go back to the ability to work across the aisle. If you, once again, speculating here because we don't know who's going to be in the offices around you, but let's say a Republican is governor. And let's say that the under the Gold Dome is controlled by Republicans and you have this office as a Democrat. Can you point to times in your past where you were able to reach across the aisle to speak to those and come up with an agreement, and how you would use that time as your time as Attorney General?
Yeah, you know, this has come up a couple times, and what I would say is this. You know, as a prosecutor, and really as a practicing lawyer in general, but certainly as a prosecutor, we never really asked whether or not a victim was a Democrat or a Republican. We never really asked, ever, not really ever asked if an accused was a Democrat or a Republican. It is irrelevant to the work you do as the Attorney General and in law enforcement. It's just irrelevant. It's not the place for politics. And I will tell you that in my experience under the Gold Dome, people would be surprised to know how much stuff we agree on down there. The vast majority of the bills that pass down in the General Assembly are bipartisan bills. There is a small percentage, I'd say maybe 20% or so, that we just have very differing policy positions on. And so, you know, it is a team sport, legislating. And so I have found and had great success, I feel like, and have gotten to make some really good friends on the other side of the aisle by just being willing to listen and being willing to compromise when compromise is appropriate. I'll be the same Tanya, you know. I'll be the same Tanya I've always been as the Attorney General. And I do believe that that office above just about every other office that we're talking about here right now should not be a political office. If you're the Attorney General, you represent literally Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everything else in between. And so once you get that job and you're doing that job, if you're doing it right, you are making sure that the work you do is good and is right for the people without regard to to politics. So that is how I intend to conduct myself if the people see fit to give me this job.
Representative Miller, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We look forward to continuing the conversation into 2026.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.